Good evening, grace and peace, everybody, and thank you so much for being here. I welcome you and thank you so much for taking time to join me tonight. What a pleasure it is to have you here with me and for you to be part of this evening with me. I don't take your time for granted, and I truly thank you for being present with me tonight and for taking time to be here. I welcome you and I invite you. Thank you so much again. I hope that you are all doing well. How has your Sunday been? It's been a while since I've been live, and it feels good to be back with you. It feels great to be back here with you. As a matter of fact, thank you so much, Clarity of Yah, for being here. Grace be unto you. Hello, Auntie Cluster B. Free, Karen, for being here. And thank you all so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for just being present. God is good. And I welcome you, and I am so thankful that you are here. Today, I wanted to have a conversation with you about your most significant weapon against the narcissist. Good evening, and thank you so much for being here. Listen, I don't want to chop your name. I wouldn't even know how to say it, but I see you and I thank you for being part of tonight's discussion. Welcome, and thank you so much for your time. Um, Good evening. Thank you so much for joining. I saw your comment earlier. I wasn't sure if you were on, but welcome and thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you for your time. Um, your greatest weapon against the narcissist, like, yo, we have weapons, and our weapons are not carnal, but they are mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. One thing when it comes to us dealing with these entanglements is sometimes we can feel as though we are weak, we are without help, and we can feel defeated. But I want to remind you that no, you are not weak. You are not defeated. You are not without help. You are more powerful than you know. And it's my goal that by the end of tonight, it's my prayer at least, that you would see yourself more like how God sees you, that throughout this conversation, you would pick up some nuggets and that He would speak to you and I will be able to point you back to Him because this is where you get your weapons so that you can be edified for the fight that lies ahead of you. Because let's make no mistakes, it is a fight, and you have to come out of this. Hi, Auntie, good to see you and welcome. I love you too. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you again for being here. God bless you. Hi, Mark. It's great to see you. Thank you so much for your time. But listen, I wanted to talk to you today, and I wanted to come from Luke chapter 8. I haven't been on live for a while, and I actually also haven't done any videos for a while because I needed clarity from God. I have been seeking Him about my own life and my own journey. And I felt like it wouldn't be wise of me to share with you while I was going through a transition. I shared with you some months ago about going through some challenges with my son, and then we had some challenges with my daughter, and there's just been things happening. I feel like a shift that was taking place, and things have been shifting. God has been moving, God has been speaking, God has been gracious, and He's been good. But I needed things to kind of just pan out a bit, and I think I'm in a better place now to really share from a clear vantage point, and I'm here. And so I hope that whatever I share will come from a place where my heart and my hands are pure and we can grow together. That is the ultimate goal at the end of the day. But I wanted to share with you from Luke chapter 8, verses 43 to 48. And the funny thing is, I have been in this one chapter for so long, and there's so many nuggets here in just Luke chapter 8. I think, if you were to visit this for yourself over time, you'd find there's so many things that can help edify you as you journey. But I want to just touch on Luke 8:43 to 48. And it's not a lot it's just 5 verses. So I'm going to read it. And I'm going to read from the King James Version. And it's something that's not, it's not unfamiliar to many of us, especially since, many of us may have come up in the church. So it's not going to be unfamiliar. But it's about the woman with the issue of blood. And it says, and a woman having an issue of blood 12 years which had spent all her living upon physicians, neither could be healed of any, came behind him and touched the border of his garment, and immediately her issue of blood stanched. And Jesus said, "Who touched me?" When all denied, Peter and they that were with him said, "Master, the multitude thronged thee and pressed thee, and thou sayest, Who touched me?" And Jesus said, "Somebody hath touched me, for I perceived that virtue is gone out of me." And when the woman saw that she was not hid, she came trembling and falling down before him, and declared unto him before all the people for what cause she had touched him, and how she was immediately healed. And he said unto her, "Daughter, be of good comfort, thy faith has made thee whole, go in peace." When I read this and when I read it and I continue to ponder on this, I remember, it reminds me of how our entanglements can be with the narcissist. Thank you so much, EJ. I appreciate your super sticker. Thank you so much. It reminds me of how our entanglements can be with narcissists. There's so much to be said. It starts off by letting us know that she had an issue. And anytime you have a narcissist in your life, listen, we all know you have an issue, you have a problem. And there are some versions, or some, different versions of the Bible that will tell us that she was subjected, and that lets us know that this issue dominated her. It wasn't that, she was out here living her best life. And it wasn't that, she was having brunches with her girlfriends, or she was hanging out and she was in the self care club. She was subjected, she was dominated by this issue. Her life evolved around this issue. Everything about the way she saw herself, it evolved around this issue. Everything. It took up her thoughts, it took up her time, it took up everything. It tells us that, she spent everything that she had, she gave everything that she had to try to cure this issue, to try to get healing from this issue. And she went to physicians after physicians, and she could not get any help. And it kind of reminds me, like, listen, we are faced with so many issues, and it doesn't matter what your duration was or what the time frame that you were in entanglement with the narcissist was. Because Auntie Karen is here, she was 33 years. But the crazy thing is, it doesn't just stop at 33 years. It stops it that's kind of another starting point. It's like you turn the page, one chapter ends and a new one begins, because once your time with that one issue ends, you're starting something new. What was all of that? What was the last 33 years of my life? How am I going to move forward? And you start seeking truth, you start searching for what you were going through, you start trying to figure out, who am I now? And so that's another quest, that's another issue that you have, and you're trying to discover, who am I, and how do I transition beyond this, and how do I move forward? And so that journey continues. And she spent 12 years. 12 years, but how long did you spend? And is your journey over? And how much is it going to cost you? I can only imagine. Can you imagine her first year when she had that issue? And I just want to remind you that, back in those days, when women had that issue of blood, it wasn't like it was now, where you could just intertwine with society. You had to be, you were considered dirty. So you had to be outside of society, be isolated. You were considered unclean. When we are in these entanglements with narcissists, it's almost like there's this thing about us, and it may not be that society says it, but it's that mental stench that stays on us. It's that indoctrination that we get from these relationships that tell us that, hey, there's something about you, and we start to believe the lies of the enemy, and we don't trust ourselves. We don't see ourselves, because can you imagine year one of this 12-year journey? Can you imagine the very first time you were devalued in that relationship? How did it feel? What did you do? How did you feel? Were you able to say, you know what, this is just, did you think that, okay, it's going to get better? Because I did. If I can be completely honest, I thought it was going to get better. Thank you so much, Deborah. I appreciate your super sticker. Thank you. um, did you think it was going to get better? Because I did. And I'm sure at the beginning of year one for her, she thought, well, I'm not going to be in this position this time next year. And I remember, I remember the day I got married, I thought, oh, well, now we're married, things will be a bit different, things will be better. It's going to get better. And that was year one. But it says she had this issue for 12 years. How many years did you have your issue? You know, one thing that I want to always be with when I come here and I share with you is transparent. My first instance or my first interaction with the narcissist was when I was 4. That's when I was, sexually violated. And any predator, well, narcissists are predators, and that person was a narcissist. And I spent not 1 year trying to recover and trying to find out who am I after this. I actually wanted to rescue that little girl, that 4-year-old girl, and make her feel whole and make her feel seen. But I spent 31 years, and every year it was like, it's gonna get better. I'm gonna get it right. I'm gonna figure this thing out. But I never quite got it right. And how many years did you spend? How many years did you tell yourself, well, it's going to get better next year? I'm going to overcome this next year. I'm not going to be in this same position next year. I'm sure that as she sought physician after physician after physician for her healing, for her peace, because again, she was isolated. She wanted to be integrated back with her family, with her society, with her community. She didn't want to be considered an outcast. And that's how it is. Narcissistic abuse makes us feel like we're different. It makes us feel unseen. And so after each year, after each disappointment, after another discard, after another violent episode, after another time when with the crazy making, little by little we become invisible to ourselves. And so that little girl that I was slowly just disappeared and became a flower on the wall, just never wanting to be seen. Good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for being here. Good evening, good evening. Hi, Ellen B. Thank you so much for being here. Let me just take a moment to say hi. Good evening, Brother Solomon. Good evening, Shannon. Thank you so much for stopping by and taking time out of your day to be here with me. I appreciate your time. Again, we're coming from Luke chapter 8, going through verses 43 to 48, and we're talking about your most significant weapon against the narcissist. And, it's tapping into your most significant state and living a fearless life and being fearless. But how do you get there? Because, we've been talking and I've been telling you, like, narcissistic abuse leaves us feeling shameful. It leaves us feeling hopeless. It leaves us feeling desperate. We're lonely. We're in regret. And, we're living with blame. We're living in fear. We're living spending up all our livelihood. For many people, it's this woman was going from physician to physician, right? For some of us, it was going from channel to channel, from live stream to live stream, from this coach to that coach, from this therapist to that therapist, and nothing is quite fitting. I remember when I was trying to find my own healing from sexual assault, that, hey, the very first therapist said to me, like, listen, what did you do to cause this to happen? And that just set me back. I didn't want to go to therapy. It just put a wall, because I was thinking, well, I didn't even know about sex or anything along those lines until this person came into my life and did this thing. And even then, I didn't understand what was happening or what happened. And so I'm confused. Why would you put that on me? I mean, like, victim blaming much? I mean, I was confused, like. But she had a flow of blood. She had a flow of issues. And that's what happens. We have a flow of issues that come as a result of narcissistic abuse. We have a flow of anxiety, CPSD, CPTSD, depression, like real issues real issues. We don't see ourselves. And it's so, it's incredible because that's the one reason why I wanted to share this story with you, because she was an outcast. So that meant that society didn't see her, you know, and it's easy to not be seen by society because of the labels that are attached to you. And it's easy to not be seen in these situations because the narcissist runs these smear campaigns and they talk about you, and they set the scene in motion while they're still getting, or they're still grooming people. They're still grooming the next target to fill a certain role, and you don't even know about it, but they're already smearing your name and they're talking about you and they're doing these things, and you're clueless, and it's like you don't know. And so here she is, here you are, just totally clueless, and all of this is flowing, and you're like, okay, so now what do you do? And a lot of times, we ask ourselves, why me, why me? But the truth is, we got to flip that question. Now that this has happened, what now? What do we do? What do I do, Lord? What do I do with the situation that I've been faced with, or this hand that you gave me? I trust that you're sovereign and that you know all things. So there's no way that this can be a mistake. But what do I do now? What do I do? And it takes you having a level of faith to ask what instead of why. Because let's be honest, if we are all living life, and if we are all living life, then it's safe to say that at some point we are all going to experience life. And the mere fact that we are gathered here together, we have a common thread, we have a common experience. It may be slightly different, but there's a similarity there. And I want to say this to you before I forget, that just because there's a common trauma, there's a shared trauma, it does not mean that there's compatibility. So just because you and other people have the same type of experience, it doesn't make you compatible with that person. You've got to test the spirit by the spirit. And when I say test the spirit by the spirit, that means pause for a moment, think for yourself, go to God, pray, fast, meditate, hear Him for yourself. Don't just go by what people tell you. Use your God given mind. Because one thing again, shared trauma is not the answer. You have your own mind. God made you in His image and in His likeness. And He gave you that mind to think for yourself. So be sure that you are always engaging in your own thought process. And when you don't know which way to go, it's an indicator that, hold on, maybe I need to sit down for a moment, be still. Let me go to His feet for myself and get an answer. And if I don't have that answer, I need to pause and not make any decisions until His answer is crystal clear, and then I can proceed. But let's go back to this woman, because she is amazing, and we can learn some things from her. Um, you know, I want to say that this woman, and one thing that I want you to pick up from this, is that there was a divine appointment that was assigned over her life. Because what it says is that she had this issue of blood, right, for 12 years. But what we actually was happening here is that Jesus was on his way to Jairus's house because his daughter was sick. And the crazy thing is that Jairus's daughter was sick and she was dying. But his daughter was 12 years old. She was 12 years old. This woman's issue was 12 years. She had had this issue for 12 years, meaning that there was an appointed time for her issue to end. Jesus just wasn't haphazardly passing through Capernaum for no reason. He was on assignment. She had an appointment with him. But what had to happen is that she had to recognize the fact that, listen, I can't accept this life just like this. Like I can just exist like this. Like I've just got to just take this issue for what it is. And at some point, you are going to have to get serious about your issue. I said this on one live. sometime last year, I believe, that you've got to get intentional with your healing journey. And what I meant when I said that was that you have got to really be serious about your healing. How desperately do you want to be healed? How badly do you want to be set free? Because there is healing that is available to you. You don't have to live under the guise of a victim. In fact, I would charge you, I challenge you to say you are a victor because that is your Christ given identity. You are a victor. You are not a victim. You are a victor. Change your words, change how you see yourself. It says that in the beginning, he said, let there be light. And there was light. And he said it was good. So if you are created in his image and in his likeness, use your words. Let those be the ones that, it says, speak those things that are not as though they are. You are a victor. I said, be intentional with your words, or be intentional with your healing, so that in the next year, I don't find you here and we're still having the same conversation about the narc did this. There's therapists. There are excellent therapists who won't take advantage of you, who won't mislead you, who won't send you down a rabbit hole. There are counselors, there are psychotherapists. If you need medication, it is there. There are excellent coaches that are here willing and ready to help you to transition. Therapists help you work through your past issues, coaches help you transition forward. There are coaches right here on the live stream, ready, willing, and able to help you transition beyond what you are facing. But you have to be willing to take that step, invest in yourself, engage in the process, and do the work. Are you ready? How badly do you want this? Because there's life waiting for you on the other side. This woman with the issue could have sat down and said, you know what, I'm going to be here. You know what, I'm just going to be here another year, whatever. Or, she could have just said, you know what, it's over. My life is over. It's been 12 years, whatever. I'm just going to chill out here, because she could allow that issue to become her identity. She could have allowed it to be her identity. But there was an appointment. There was a divine appointment. And I believe that there is a divine appointment for you. I know that there was a divine appointment for me, and there have been several divine appointments for me. And I believe that, life is a journey, and they may all look different. They don't all have to be the same. But there was one where I sat in Matthew chapter 13, 24 to 30. I've said this several times. And that was what really got me to understand that my I'm not defined by my past. Like, listen, your nativity, your life may have started one way, but it does not dictate what your destiny will look like. Like, everything that you needed to transition into your most significant state, everything that you needed to become who God already knows that you are, the very thing that you are fashioned and formed before he laid the foundations of the earth, is already on the inside of you. And the crazier thing is that your purpose is already in existence. It is already waiting for you. And it's just going to take you stepping into that moment and saying, you know what, I'm ready. I'm tired of you chasing me down. I surrender it all. I'm ready for my healing. I don't know what that looks like, but I'm just trusting you in this moment. Take me, I'm here. I surrender it all, and availing yourself to it. Yes, it's going to, you may have to again go to therapy, go to counseling, get a psychotherapist, get a coach, but partner with him, the author and the finisher of your faith. Partner with Jehovah Rapha, the greatest physician, the one who has never lost a case. Partner with him. He will help you in all things. One thing that is very dangerous is when we start placating our feelings and emotions, and we start trying to act like we don't feel it because it's not cool to say this, and we don't like how we're feeling, and I'm bitter, And who wants to admit that they're feeling bitter? I'm feeling disappointed, and it's not cool to say those things. Or, you know what, I'm feeling resentful. Hey, how about I'm feeling envious? I'm feeling jealous. And if these are your feelings, own up to them. Be honest. There's nothing like, you can lie to everybody, but don't lie to yourself, because you will never be set free. I can sit here and I can lie to all of you all day, but until I'm willing to tell myself, until I'm willing to face my own demons, nothing will change. So if I'm feeling envious, I've got to go on my knees and say, listen, this is how I'm feeling. Placating your feelings and emotions will only delay you. You will not get to your desired fulfillment by doing that. You know, be honest with that, um, and never stop tapping into that pain. Tap into that pain, because that becomes your sweet spot. The scripture tells us that unless a seed fall to the ground and die, unless a seed fall to the ground, is buried and die, nothing comes out of that. So when it falls, and I say, you know what, Lord, I'm feeling bitter, because I'm sick and tired of the rejection. I'm sick and tired of the deception. I'm sick and tired of the lies. I'm sick and tired of being taken advantage for. I'm bitter, right? That seed, I've confessed it. I've said it. It's out there. It's fallen to the ground and died. Now it's up to him to do what he's going to do with it. What is he gonna birth from that seed? Something new has to spring forth from it. Now, once I've left it there, I've got to do the work now to be sure that I don't pick that up. And how do I not pick it up? I've got to surrender. I've got to crucify the flesh. I've got to die to self. That, listen, the very things that led me down that path, I can't go down that way anymore. I've got to make a conscious decision every day to feed myself something different, so that I don't end up there anymore, because it's going to be dangerous to me. And, I don't want to end up there anymore. Thank you so much for this teaching. God bless you too. Thank you so much, sis. Um, but like, yeah, 12 years she was untouchable. 12 years she was in shame. 12 years she was in pain. And you, ladies, fellas, I know you're here, so just give us a moment. Like, ladies, like, we know that thing. When we have that thing, it's, can you imagine however many days you had to deal with it? Pain, discomfort, feeling unclean, but 12 years. 12 years she had to go through that. 12 years. 12 years. And, when we come out of this narc abuse, or while we're going through the recovery process, it's that soul hurt. It's that soul hurt that is invisible to other people. They don't see the injury. They don't see the depths of our hurt. They don't see the depths of the pain. And that's why we say emotional abuse. You don't get to see our scars. You don't see our scars, when it's physical abuse, people can see your scars, and they can empathize, they can sympathize. But with emotional abuse, they don't see those scars. And so it may be difficult for people to empathize when it comes to that level of, that level of pain, that level of torture. But don't ever don't ever become invisible to yourself. Don't ever become invisible to yourself. And that is one thing about this woman that I want to salute. She did not become invisible to herself. She did not become invisible to herself. She did not. Now, I became invisible to myself. In fact, I did so many other things to become invisible, not just to myself, but to other people, because I didn't want to be seen. Because in my mind, the soundtrack was that you're not good enough. You're never gonna be good enough. You deserve everything that happened. And narcissist after it kept coming after that, because of what I had trained myself to believe, because it started off with a seed. Like, listen, a seed, a seed, a seed, a seed. Your mind is so powerful. That's why I said to you earlier, be careful what you absorb. think for yourself and study that, be sure that whatever you're receiving, you are testing the spirit by the spirit, because whatever seed comes through is going to infiltrate your mind, into your heart, and your will. And whoever has control of your mind has control of your soul. I will say this until the day he calls me home, because it's important that you understand that your soul is, whoever has your mind has your soul, and the devil is a liar. The only one that should have control of your mind is you. Not even Christ himself tries to govern our mind. That's why we have free will, because he wants us to serve him out of our own desire. So why would you turn your mind over to some raggedy, dusty person, to some narcissist? No, you've got to think for yourself. And she thought for herself. There it comes, we deal with institutionalized religion, right? They say you can't do this. They say you can't show up there. They say things have to be this way. Things have to be that way. And it's also because of institutionalized religion that she could not be part of the society. Within the communities, we talk so much about spiritual abuse, and how religion has played a role in these narcissistic leaders or pastors, have hurt the flock. And we keep hearing about church hurt and church hurt, and people don't want to go to church anymore. But the truth of the matter is that when we bite into a particular type of bread, let's say I have sourdough, and I say I don't like this type of bread, I don't stop eating the bread. I just don't stop eating bread in general. I stay away from sourdough and I go to wheat bread, and I say, okay, this is better for me. I like it. I don't just turn away from the church altogether, or not even the church, but God. I stay positioned and say, you know what, I'm going to seek him for myself. But that's what happens once people have felt this type of injury, when they've been dealt this type of blow, or they've encountered this type of issue. It subjects them, it dominates them, and it flows through every part of them, affecting them. And it does, there's no peace. It dominates everything, and they become invisible to themselves. They become invisible to the truth that is theirs. Going back to that 12 years, like he was on his way, or Jesus was on his way to Jairus's house to heal, to his daughter who was sick and she was dying, right? And this woman, again, going back, it was 12 years. So it was a process. It was 12 years. It was a divine appointment. And I was just saying how I want to salute this woman for not becoming blind to herself. She had to have been broken, because when I want you to think for a moment, just reflect, when you were alone, when you were really at your lowest point in your relationship, whether you were raised by the narcissist, whether, I think for me, whenever I will think about my lowest point, is when I felt like, I'm always going to be defined by that day, by the day that my innocence was shattered, by the day when I thought that, I was defined by that act, when I was told that, you're dirty, you're disgusting, you will always be no good, and you are never good enough, and you will never be loved. I thought that's what I was and what I would always be. But when you consider your lowest point, and you can want to say, like, I'm going to stay at this point, but we have to make a decision that that's not who you are. You have to decide that I'm going to walk in the consciousness. That means I'm going to make a decision that I am fearfully and wonderfully made, that I'm going to walk in that consciousness, that no weapon formed against my mind, even those weapons that I form in my own mind, are going to prosper. And you decide that I'm not going to be hidden anymore. I'm not going to be invisible to myself, and I'm going to come from behind. Listen, when it said here that, she came from behind and she touched his garment, you know, it's so crazy, because it says that there were so many people, right? And they were thronging all over the place. It means that she had to come from the back of the crowd. There were that many people, and she couldn't just walk up, all laxy, however, and just walk up and bend down and touch his garment. She had to be on her knees. She had to go on the ground and crawl so that she could touch his garment, because there was no way. If you think of a throng of people, think about a concert, think about a revival. There was no way that she could just walk up to him and touch the hem of his garment, just, bend down and just touch it. She had to get into a posture. What posture are you in? She had to get in a particular posture so that she could reach the hem of his garment and touch it. She had to be postured. She had to come from behind. She had to see herself. She had to say that I'm not going to be hidden anymore. I'm not going to listen to what they say anymore. She had to determine, she had to make up her mind that I deserve something better than this. And I want you to also recognize that you deserve something so much more than this. You deserve so much more than the lies that you've been told. You deserve so much more than the gaslighting. You deserve more than the blame shifting. You deserve more than walking on eggshells. You deserve more than brokenness. You deserve more than a broken heart. You deserve more than thinking this is all that your life is going to be. The devil is a liar. Your life is going to be so much more. This is nothing more than a chapter in your story. It is not the entire story. You are going to go from glory to glory. You are going to go from one level to another level. You are going to go from one dimension to another. You are not your past. Your nativity is not defined by, or your destiny is not defined by your nativity. You are going to rise. You are going to rise. You are fashioned and formed in divinity. Like, listen, this earth couldn't come into being. It couldn't come into existence without you. And I want you to really understand that this woman, she had to come and she had to be part of the earth. She had to be part of the story. She had to be part of creation so that she would be an example for us, because it took her having the courage to come from behind so that we would be able to say, oh my God, snap, I too can come from behind. Like, oh, if she did it, I can do it too. Like, hey, she had the courage. I don't need permission from anybody to decide that I'm going to walk out who I'm supposed to be. You don't need permission from anybody to walk in your purpose. You don't need permission from anybody to be healed. You don't need permission from no doctor, no coach, no lawyer, no nobody. You make that decision and you come into agreement with his plans, his purpose for your life, and come from behind. That is all you have to do. You come into agreement with what was said about you before the foundations of this earth, and you say, that's it. And come on, come from behind. You can touch the hem of his garment at any moment. You can touch the hem of his garment at any moment. And all it's going to take is you having some faith. What is your most powerful weapon against the narcissist? Your faith. What it says here, and mind you, it started off by telling us a woman. It didn't even tell us her name. There are instances in the Bible where it talks about people and it names them. Blind Bartimaeus. That's another story I love so much. It names him. He was just a man by the wayside. Blind Bartimaeus. But, this is just a woman. We don't even know anything about her other than she was a woman. She is a nameless woman. And she is a woman who had an issue. You are a person. You are just a person, a victim of narcissistic abuse. You become invisible to yourself. You identify as a victim of narcissistic abuse because of everything the abuse has told you, because of everything the narcissist has said about you and to you, because of the smear campaign, because of the flying monkeys, because of the rejection, because of the abandonment issues, because of the disappointment. You start identifying with those things and you call yourself these things. But she acknowledged that, hey, I have an issue. That's why she started seeking the help of the physicians. That's why she started going out, because she said, I have an issue. Her issue was flowing. She had a flow of blood. But what is your issue? Is peace flowing out of your life? Is joy flowing out of your life? When we're with narcissists, many times finances are flowing, joy is flowing, happiness, productivity, creativity, the very things that you were created to be. The narcissist wants you to work for them and pursue their dreams and pursue their purposes, draining you of your energy, and you can't even sleep because you're chasing after all these things to satisfy their needs. And here you are depleted and without. And why? 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 What is in it for you? Absolutely nothing. She is a nameless woman and she's bleeding. And you get so caught up again, just being invisible, and it becomes so familiar, and you just fall back in it being familiar. And if you are not careful, that's why I say be intentional with your healing. You can fall into it over and over again. We have all got to be intentional. When you start interacting on the outside, always take new relationships to God's. Test the spirit by the spirit. Be sure that you are allowing time to qualify relationships. Be sure that you are giving them time. But here's the crazy thing, and this is one of the wonderful things about this woman, is she sought help. She sought answers, and that's what you are doing. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. You're being intentional, but continue to be intentional. Build on that. This past week, I got two emails from two different ladies, and they were reaching out for coaching. And something in me just said pause, and I didn't respond immediately. And I just took some time out to pray about these ladies, and I was like, nah, it just didn't sit on me to respond for coaching. I just prayed about it and I left it alone for, I think it was a few days. And I left it alone. And after a couple of days, I went back and I replied to the ladies, and I was like, how you doing? And, do you still want to set up this coaching? And they both said the same thing. And they were like, I think I just really needed clarity from you if I'm ready to move on. What they were saying is that they were looking for my permission to transition from this community. And I was like, you don't need my permission. What you're actually saying is that you are ready to move on, and it's time for you to move on. And I was so glad, because imagine if I just jumped on it and said, yeah, it's time for coaching. But I was so glad that I had taken a moment to pray for them first. And, they also had the mindset that I'm ready to move on. And I want you to really be careful and really be prayerful as you get help, so that you don't overstay, because there's a danger in overstaying. You don't want to miss your opportunities. You don't want to you don't want to stay in a place for too long, because that in itself it's also not a good thing for you. But get what you need and continue to transition. But sis here, the lady with the issue, she listen, I have a love for this woman. I'm sure you can tell it. She came from behind. Like, I can't stop saying it. And so many times, it's like we are the underdogs. Once we've been dealing with these situations, and you get all that rejection, you get all that disappointment, you get all that hurt, and you tell yourself, you know what? I don't care what they say. Like, listen, I'm here rooting for the underdog, because I am an underdog, overlooked, denied, rejected all the times. But I'm going to continue to rise. I'm going to continue to pick myself, dust myself. I want you to know I'm a testimony that, yeah, I've made mistakes. Yeah, I've had poor judgment. Yeah, I've had to go ahead and confess, repent, and, change my mind about some things. I've had to get help. I've had to do all those things that we all do. But I've also had to go to God. And, there's nothing like having to go to our Father, because He's the one who dusts us off. He's the one who heals us. He's the one who restores us. And He's the one who redeems us. And He's the Redeemer. So you're always in good hands when you go back to your Redeemer, and you're going to be just fine. You're going to be just fine. But keep going back to Him. Keep coming from behind. Keep getting up. Keep seeking your healing. Keep trusting Him. don't become hid to yourself. She sought her solution. She went out. She kept seeking the answers. And don't ever be afraid to reach out. Don't don't be silent. Don't just watch the videos and then think that it's for other people. It's also for you. Get the help that you need so that you can come out. She the most amazing thing. She didn't care about what anybody said. She institutionalized religion said, oh, you got to stay, you can't come into society, you're dirty, you're nasty. The narc said, like, you're no good, you'll be nothing, you're rejected, you're denied, you're overlooked. She said, oh, bet I'm going to come from behind. I'm the underdog. Stop me if you can, bet. And here she is. She came from behind. She saw herself. She may have been invisible to all of them. They may have tried to stop her. They may have rejected her. They may have talked about her. They may have denied her. They may have tried to change her seasons and her timings. And that's one thing you got to know about the enemy. The enemy can't stop anything that God has for your life. He can't. He may try to stop it, and he is going to try to stop it. But the only thing the enemy can effectively do is change seasons and timings. And that's how he will. And the way he will do it is by our emotions. That's why your soul is so important. He will try to change seasons and timings by just affecting how you feel, having control of your mind. That's why your mind is a powerful thing. Don't waste it. It's a powerful weapon. And, this woman said, bet you're not gonna play with me. She decided to leave the past behind her. And why I say she left the past behind her is she got up. It says that she went and she touched the hem of his garment. So that means she no longer cared about what people say. That means whatever they said didn't matter. Whatever the narc said about you no longer matters. It doesn't matter, because a narc is always going to be a narc. They are always going to narc and do narcish things. You take your focus off of that and you focus on the table that has been set before you. And that is what she did. She said, you know what? The past is behind me. Those 12 years are more than enough. And again, there was a divine appointment that was set for her. She went ahead. She went ahead and she pushed past the crowd. She pushed past doubt. She pushed past insecurity. She pushed past fear. She pushed past her vulnerabilities. She pushed past it all. And she faced every fear. She faced it all. And she said, sometimes we're going to have to do those things when we're afraid. There's nothing wrong with doing something afraid, but just do it. We don't always have to know all the answers, but still take that step. Sometimes we're only going to get those answers as we transition. And it's okay. Leave your past in the past. I had to leave my past in the past. I could no longer be that little bruised girl, in order for me to come to this point. And even the woman that I was 10 years ago, I had to leave her behind. I took her lessons with me forward. Even the woman I was 5 years ago, I had to leave her in the past. I take her lessons and I go forward because I learned from those lessons. A woman that I was 2 years ago, I leave her in the past, but I take those lessons. And that's how it's always going to be. Leave the past in the past. Take the lessons, learn from them. What can I do better? What choices can I make better? And continue to go forward. It says here, he asked who touched me. And when they all denied it, and this is where, he says in verse 46, somebody touched me, for I perceived virtue had gone out of me. Virtue, that means that healing power had left. She was restored, and it was an immediate thing. And this is when the woman saw that she was no longer hid. Verse 47 says that she was no longer hid. That meant for the first time in 12 years, she was no longer hid. And it happened in an instant that everybody who was around her could see her. She was no longer hid. She had been invisible to everybody. To everybody. Those that talked about you, those that lied about you, those that believed the narcissist about you, those that doubted that God could do something with you, those that thought that, you were everything that they said that you were. It said that she was no longer hid. She was no longer invisible. She was no longer hid. She came trembling and she fell to her knees. And I don't know what else she could do at this point because she was no longer hid. She was finally seen. And that's something that I need you to understand that, before you were formed in your mother's womb, before he put clay together, breathed life, and it placed you in your mother's womb, he had a plan, he had a purpose for your life. And I don't know what that plan and purpose is, but he does. And I'm sure, I'm sure to some degree, you may know some of what it is. You may only know a glimpse of it, and it'll be some of what your proclivities may be. It will be some of the things that you like and the things that you're passionate about that will speak to your purpose, right? And your purpose, I already said it's waiting for you, and everything that you need is on the inside of you. But it's that thing that you are going to do effortlessly. It's that thing that is going to make you shine. It's that thing that the enemy tries to stop you from doing because it's what you were created for. The enemy doesn't care about, listen, the enemy doesn't care. You can have the finest car, you can live in the finest neighborhood, you can have all the degrees, you can just have it all. You can just have it all. Like, listen, I could walk around with the finest fake hair or whatever, right? You can have it all. The enemy doesn't care about those things. He comes to change. He comes to change timings to affect you walking in your purpose because that's where you cannot be hid. So when these narcs come into your life, they're here to disrupt you and give you sleepless nights and mess with your mind so that your will it's not in the direction, it doesn't go in the direction that it should, so that you don't walk in your purpose. And that's what it is. You were created for something. And that is the thing that will keep you from being hid. It's where your light will shine. It's that thing that makes you the salt of the earth. It's that thing where you become a change agent. It's that thing where you become a game changer. And for all of us, it's going to look like something different. Our purpose is not all going to be the same. We're not all going to, do the exact same thing, but our purposes are going to be as unique as our fingerprints because it's just for us. But she was no longer hid. And one of the most important parts about this story or about her story is that it says here that, I started by telling you that, or I just told you a little while ago, that she was identified as just a woman, right? It said a woman having an issue. And I said that you having an issue with a narcissist. But then right here in verse 48, it says, and he said unto her daughter, he gave her an identity. Once she was no longer hid, he gave her an identity. She was no longer just a woman. You are no longer just a victim. His desire is not for you to just be or he doesn't want you to just be a victim. You are a victor. You are royalty. You are a child of the Most High God. You are heir of royalty. He gave her an identity. She's no longer. He erases that past. She's no longer the woman with the issue. I'm no longer that little abused 4-year-old girl that was just crying and crying, the one who tried to take her life. I'm not that woman anymore. I'm not that girl anymore. I'm not her anymore. She's not the woman with the issue anymore. We have a new identity. This is where it says he gives us a new name. She is his daughter. You are his daughter. You are his son. And you're his child, essentially. And so it's that adoption into his bloodline. And that's your identity. So it doesn't even matter what they say, what they do. There is a divine appointment for you. And it says right here, in verse 48, and he said unto her, daughter, be of good comfort, thy faith has made thee whole, go in peace, thy faith. And so what we can see that throughout this entire passage, throughout this entire text, it was her faith that was what was working. If she did not have the faith, if she didn't have the faith to say, you know what, I'm sick of it, I'm going, I heard, he's in town, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to see how I'm going to do this thing so that I can get my healing. It was her faith. And so I'm here to encourage you to tap into your faith. Tap into your faith, activate your faith. It actually took her faith being active and operative. What do I mean when I say active and operative faith? She had to be working on her faith daily. You have got to feed your faith. You have got to be sure that you are nourishing yourself and that you are growing your faith. In order for your faith to be active, you've got to be feeding it. You have got to, it tells us, how would they hear without a preacher? It says, faith comes by hearing and hearing by the word. That means get in your word. Don't just be satisfied by sitting here and hearing me say the word. Take what I've said. Go read the story for yourself. Take it line by line. Ask for guidance of the Holy Spirit to break it down for you. There was a time when I didn't know how to break down the word for myself, but get into the habit of reading it for yourself and asking. The word of God is alive and active. Ask him to make it come alive in your life so that you can get that understanding, so that it can spring alive in you, and you'll be able to grow from one level of faith into another level of faith, because this is how your faith gets to that stage where it's active and operative and where it begins to work, because your faith is the most significant weapon against the narcissist. As you mature in your faith, as you grow in it, you are going to be able to say, you know what, I'm leaving my past in my past. Yeah, you can say this about me. You can say, but I'm not that person anymore. You can say that about me, but I'm reaching for those things that are before me. You know what, I'm forgetting that which is behind in me and reaching for what is before me. Yeah, I may have this issue, but I heard that, there's a healer in town. So I'm going to go and make my way. I'm going to press through this crowd. I'm going to press towards the mark of a higher calling of God in Christ Jesus. You are going to start to speak differently. You're going to start, and when you start employing his word, it's his word that is going to feed your spirit, because your soul is one thing, but your spirit is another thing. And the more you feed your spirit, because now your soul is in the right place, because nobody outside of you has control of your soul, but you do now. And so now you are feeding your soul, and that is now, and you're feeding it the word, and now it is speaking to your inner man. And now here you go, growing from glory to glory. Now you are growing, and that is what it's about. You have got to elevate, you have got to grow. Your faith is important, and your faith is what is going to shield you from doubt, because those fiery arrows, those fiery darts are going to come. It is never going to stop. The enemy never ever pursues a still target. What is there to pursue? They can't pursue anything that is not moving. And if God is doing something in you, he's going to do something through you. That's why it says we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. So if you are overcoming by the blood of the Lamb and the word of your testimony, the enemy is in hot pursuit of you. That's why you need that active and operative faith. That is what your weapon is. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they are mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. Remember, one thing, your faith is what is going to help you embrace your outcomes before they become realities. We walk by faith, not by sight. That means that I may be in this situation. This narcissist may have set things up so that it looks like I'm losing, so that it looks like, I'm in the wrong, so that it doesn't matter what they've done. I'm not going to walk by sight. I'm going to walk by faith. And you take that stand for yourself. And it doesn't mean that we're engaging in battle, because that's not what we're going to do. That is not how, because listen, the battle is his. Our job is to stand. 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 Embrace your faith. And by you embracing your faith, it is going to embrace the outcomes before they become your destiny. And not only, or your reality, but not only that, your faith is the currency which you use to actually procure those outcomes before they become your destiny, or you use them to procure those your realities to become your destiny. So you used your faith to make it happen. It's your faith. God, it tells us that he is not impressed. He is not impressed by the things that we're able to accumulate here. We can be eloquent preachers. We can memorize the word. We can do all this and that. It's our faith. It tells us when he comes back, will I find faith? And it's your faith that impresses him. And it was her faith that caused her to be healed. It was her faith. And so I'm sharing this with you to encourage you in your faith. It's my hope that, as you are hopefully encouraged, that your faith is activated, that your faith is empowered, that you would take a look at your own faith walk and say, where am I? And what am I doing? How has my faith journey been this year? How much have I grown this year? And am I satisfied with my level of growth? Because as you grow in your faith, even as you try to overcome narcissistic abuse, you are going to grow. There is no way that God will grow you in faith. There is no way that you will elevate in the realm of the spirit and stay stagnant in this area, that you won't overcome this issue, right? This issue of the blood. You will overcome it, because you are going to be, something on the inside of you is going to refuse to stay stagnant. That your spirit, not even something, but your spirit, the spirit that is on the inside of you, is going to put a demand on you to make your faith, to take that step of faith. Like, she could not stay in the background anymore. She had to come from behind and touch the hem of his garment. What are you going to do? How is it going to, cause you to take that step forward? How is it going to cause you to activate your faith? How is it going to cause you to employ your faith? What actions are you going to take? There is going to be a step that you're going to take. And so we can do so many things. But I want you to know, and these are some steps. What I'm going to share now is just some steps that I also shared these in my book. But your faith is fuel. It's going to give you the energy to keep going. So even when you feel like, I'm tired, I can't, your faith is going to just go into autopilot on your behalf. You are going to continue to keep going. Your faith is a powerful, powerful weapon. It fights your fears by defeating them. And it's not that it defeats them passively, it defeats them aggressively. And it's that aggressive faith that, because it's active and operative, it's because you've been feeding it, it's because it's been growing. Anything stagnant is dead. That's why you can't have that stagnant death. You've got to be intentional about how your journey is going. You've got to be intentional. But one thing about faith, it also guarantees victory. Look at how her story ended. She was victorious. She was healed, and she was healed immediately. It guaranteed victory. You will always triumph when you are faithful. And it doesn't just happen on its own, but you've got to, again, develop your faith. If you want a great capacity of faith, and I believe that this woman had a great capacity of faith, because she had 12 whole years to face her issue. And I I believe in that 12 years as she went to physician after physician, and she gave her all. She gave her all. And you know, one thing about these relationships is that we give our all in these relationships. You know, we give all our time, we give all our affection, we give all our love, we give everything that we have. But let's put that same energy and that same effort to growing in this area, you know. But your faith is what is going to sustain you. It is your most significant weapon against the narcissist because it's what guarantees your victory. And I wanted to share that with you tonight. And I really want to thank you. I don't take you taking time out of your evening to be with me tonight. You could be with your families, you could be doing a whole lot of things, but you're here with me. And I really do appreciate your time. I know I haven't been in the comments too much because I've been in this. But hi, Heather. Heather Karma, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Um, this woke queen. Yes, glory and thank you, God. Thank you so much for your time. Hello, Brother Ellen B. Kingdom Minded Advances. Thank you so much for being here. Faith based workplace. Hello, brother. I'm just waiting for my Bengay. I got jokes. I know I will always have jokes. But I want to thank you so much, so much for your time. Um, Before we end tonight, you know, I would like to close in prayer. So if you don't mind joining me in a word of prayer as we just end our discussion tonight. Sovereign Lord, thank you so much for allowing us this opportunity to gather. Your word says that where two or three are gathered, that you are present. And I thank you that we don't have to physically be in the same room, in the same house. But God, wherever my brothers and sisters are, I pray that you would reach out to them and that you would encourage them. You know exactly the issues that they are dealing with. You know them by name. You call them son, you call them daughter. You have redeemed them, Father. And I thank you that you are restoring their hope. And I thank you that when you restore, you take them back to the original state that you had when you, or the original state that you created them when you first formed them in their mother's womb. You know the very things that they are facing, and I pray that you would give them the courage to come from behind. You know the challenges that are before them, and I pray that for those challenges that you would give them the courage to come from behind. You know the disappointment that they face, and I pray that you give them the courage to come from behind. I pray that you would give them the courage to be visible to themselves, that they would reject the sound of the enemy and that you would tune them into your sound, to the sound of your voice, because your word says that your sheep know your voice, and may they reject every contrary voice. Lord, I thank you for their lives. I thank you that they have been purchased by the incorruptible blood of the Lamb, and that no weapon formed against them shall prosper, not even the weapons that are formed in their own minds. God, I pray that you would empower them to use their own minds, that they would not be led astray. And I pray, God, that you would give them the wisdom that as they go about their journey, that they would employ your wisdom on where to go, what to do, how to do. And may they hear your voice, God, at all times and in all seasons of their life. I pray, God, that you would give them the grace to give into the unctioning of your spirit. Spirit of the living God, I ask that you would fall on them afresh right now, wherever they are, whatever they are doing. I pray that they would open up their hearts to you, for you are the healer of all issues, whatever the issue is. For those that are brokenhearted, you have healing for that. And so, God, I just want to thank you for their time. I want to thank you, God, for meeting them at their point of need. I thank you that they will no longer be invisible to themselves, because they are not hid by you, but you see them right where they are. And even as they reach out to touch the hem of your garment, I pray that you would speak to them. I pray that, God, you would teach them how to walk in this season of their lives. Some of them are being transitioned into new levels and new positions. I pray that you would teach them how to show up. I pray that you would teach them how to think in those new levels. I pray, God, that the peace that surpasses all understanding would be their portion for those that have been struggling to sleep. I pray that as they rest their bodies tonight, they would encounter your spirit, and that your spirit would fall afresh on them, and they would have rest for their troubled minds, rest for their bodies, God, and that they would just be able to relax in the moment, and that they would wake up refreshed, restored, and renewed, ready with a new mindset. God, I pray for their minds, that their minds would not be overcome with doubt, with confusion, with grief, with sorrow, but their minds would be consumed with thoughts that emanate from the mind of Christ. I declare that the mind of Christ is upon them. I declare that you have given them the power to walk right, live right, and overcome at all times. That is their portion, and that is what they will walk in. I decree and declare that in the name of Jesus, the mind of Christ is upon them, that they will seek those things that are above and not beneath, that they will no longer walk in fear, regret, doubt, guilt, but God. Only your thoughts, only your peace, only your desires. Thank you for changing proclivities. Thank you for changing minds. And Father, just thank you for being a friend. Thank you for being a friend to the friendless. Thank you, God, for unleashing a new hunger for your word, a new hunger to spend time praying and seeking you for themselves. Lord, I thank you for your spirit that you give freely to those that ask. So God, thank you for just being so merciful and gracious unto us. It is in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, that we pray tonight. Amen. Friends, thank you so much for being here with me tonight. I really do appreciate you being here. I am going to be back next Sunday. I'll probably surprise you sometime during the week, but I really want to thank you so much, Bronte, for your time. Auntie Karen, Telsha, Shannon, you all came through. Thank you so much for being here. Like, I appreciate you all and for your time. For those of you that don't know, I am going to be. I'm going to share the Zoom link tomorrow. It should already be on the community board. I am having a book review tomorrow for those of you that yeah, for Fearless, I'm having a book review. So if you have questions that you want to ask, if you want to share your favorite part of the book, if you want to share your favorite quotes, or if you're just curious about what is this book about, what is Fearless like, it's a great book, by the way. But anyhow, I did share some of the book on today's live, the part about faith. But like, if you would like to join the live, you're so welcome to come and join. The Zoom information will be on the community board. Feel free to pull through. It is at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time to 7:30. It is okay if you have not read your book. You are so welcome to still come through and just come on. And you can ask me what is new about the book. The book did get picked up by a publisher, so I'm so glad about that. This was a faith project for me because your girl had like no clue what she was doing, but it was like it was me coming from behind. It was for me thinking that, God, what is this idea that you've given me, and why did you give it to me? But I really did come from behind with this book, and he opened a crazy door. But what I want you to know is that when he opens a door for me, and it's not just for me. Like, listen, when he opens doors for me, he opens doors for everybody. And when he opens doors for one, we can all walk through the door. But I also want you to know that when he opens these types of doors, it's that it's what God can do for you. Like I always say, like I'm here as nothing more than a testimony. This door is one thing that I'm so excited about because it gives me worldwide distribution. So you can literally go in Barnes and Noble and pick up the book. So, I'm excited about that. And it's just a testament to how good God is. And it's not just for me, but it is for all of us. And so I just want to encourage you. So, it's going to be very informal. We're going to be laughing and having a good time. So feel free to stop by, and you don't have to stay the whole time. But please come through. Hi, Ashley. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, guys. I love you all, and thank you so much for being here and just being wonderful. Continue. Listen, don't be invisible to yourself. Don't be invisible. You can be invisible to the whole world, and I kind of like being invisible to the whole world because you're never invisible to God. He knows why He created you. He knows when to uncover you. He knows when to unleash the gift that is inside of you. He knows why He's covered you. This lady that we've been talking about, she was covered somewhat from everybody who was part of her community because she had to have an act of faith. She had to be willing to come from behind. Like, listen, y'all see my hashtag, come from behind. She came from behind because that's how I've lived my life. I've had to come from behind over and over and over and over again. She had to come from behind. You have had to come from behind. And there's nothing wrong with coming from behind because you know what? You know, your purpose, like I said, is always going to be there. The reasons why God has hid you is going to be there. But when He says, like, daughter, son, it's time for me to unleash the very reason why I covered you. So come from behind, come out. He called her forth. When He said, he said, who touched me? He called her forth. And she responded. It was an act of faith. She responded. So, respond when He calls you forth and He starts telling you to do these things, and you may not want to do them, but just trust Him. I did not want to write this book because it felt so uncomfortable, and it was just not what I wanted to do. But look at Him, so do what He tells you to do and trust Him. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't even have to know it all. But listen, just come from behind and don't be invisible to yourself. Don't be invisible. Don't ever take your feelings as an indictment of your character. They're just feelings, they're emotional responses. If she thought her feelings were an indictment of her character, she would never have had the guts or the faith to come from behind. She would have just allowed them to just cover her, and she would have been hidden to herself. So be courageous, be bold, be fearless, and come from behind. This is the relentless pursuit of your most significant state. Y'all, God bless you and have a wonderful evening. Good night.